November 22, 1963, 2:38 p.m., Air Force One, Love Field, Dallas. Lyndon Baines Johnson raised his right hand. Judge Sarah Hughes administered the oath of office. Jackie Kennedy, still wearing her blood-stained pink suit, stood beside him. In that moment, America gained a new president. What the American people didn't know was that they just inherited the most psychologically disturbed, narcissistic, and boundary-violating leader in modern history. Behind closed doors, LBJ was a megalomaniac, a bully, a man so consumed by power and ego that he turned every human interaction into a dominance ritual. And at the center of his pathology was an obsession with his own anatomy, specifically his penis, which he affectionately called Jumbo. If you want to understand why the man who inherited Kennedy's presidency was actually a psychotic narcissist who humiliated subordinates, conducted meetings while defecating, and used his genitals as a political weapon, hit that like button. Because this isn't gossip, this is documented history, from White House staff, from cabinet members, from his own recorded phone calls. This is the story America wasn't told. The obsession started early. According to historian Lbj'S. Steinberg, when Johnson was a student at Texas State University in the 1920s, he would emerge from dormitory showers completely naked. Then he'd announce to his peers, "I've got to take old Jumbo here and give him some exercise. I wonder who I'll fuck tonight." After returning from dates, he'd brag, "Jumbo had a real workout tonight." This wasn't youthful bravado, it was the beginning of a lifelong pattern, using sex and anatomy as power displays. Johnson's college classmates remember him as domineering, aggressive, obsessed with proving he was bigger, better, more virile than anyone else. That behavior never stopped, it just moved to Washington. By the time LBJ became Senate Majority Leader in the 1950s, he'd perfected his intimidation technique. Colleagues called it the Johnson treatment. Here's how it worked. Johnson would corner you, alone, in a hallway, an office, anywhere he could trap you. Then he'd invade your personal space, get inches from your face, tower over you at 6 feet 3 inches, grab your lapels, poke your chest. He'd talk nonstop, cajole, threaten, promise, beg, whatever it took to bend you to his will. The treatment was legendary. Senators described feeling physically violated, psychologically overpowered, unable to escape until they agreed to Johnson's demands. But that was just the beginning. In private, the treatment got much worse. When Johnson became vice president and later president, he escalated his dominance rituals. Cabinet meetings? Held in the bathroom, while Johnson sat on the toilet, defecating. Joseph Califano, Jr., Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare, documented it in his memoir. Johnson would continue working with 1 or 2 aides throughout his morning toilet. He'd get out of bed, disrobe, get into his high-pressure shower, bringing the aide into the bathroom outside the shower as he continued to discuss whatever was at hand. He would be talking as he emerged, drying himself, and continue, standing naked as he shaved, brushed his teeth with an electric toothbrush, and combed his hair. Imagine being a cabinet secretary. You arrive for a meeting with the President of the United States, and he summons you into the bathroom to take notes while he empties his bowels. Pulitzer Prize-winning biographer Robert Caro documented even more disturbing incidents. If he was urinating in a bathroom of the House Office building and a colleague came in, Johnson, finishing, would sometimes turn to him with his penis in his hand, shaking it, and ask, "Have you ever seen anything as big as this?" This wasn't accidental. It wasn't casual. It was intentional humiliation. Johnson understood power, and he understood that forcing someone to witness your most intimate bodily functions while holding them captive with their job on the line was the ultimate assertion of dominance. One of the most infamous bathroom incidents involved National Security Advisor Bundy. Johnson summoned Bundy into the bathroom for a meeting. Bundy entered, saw the president on the toilet, and politely turned to face the wall. Johnson became furious. "Come here! I can't hear you!" Bundy walked closer, still facing the wall, trying to maintain some dignity. "Closer!" Bundy kept walking, backward, eyes averted. Johnson kept calling him closer. Until Bundy, still facing away, nearly backed into Johnson's naked lap while the president sat defecating. Johnson laughed hysterically. Bundy was mortified. Later, when Bundy recounted the story to colleagues, he was visibly shaken. The president had psychologically violated him for fun. Lbj'S bathroom fixation extended beyond meetings. He became obsessed with his White House shower. Specifically, he wanted a shower with needle-like water pressure aimed directly at his genitals. According to Kate Anderson Brower's book, The Residence, Inside the Private World of the White House, Johnson demanded that White House plumbers install a special crotch-level shower head. When they explained it would require extensive plumbing work, Johnson exploded. "If I can move 10,000 troops in a day, you can certainly fix the bathroom any way I want it." The project took 5 years. One foreman suffered a nervous breakdown from Johnson's constant demands. The shower design was insane. Multiple nozzles spraying in every direction, one aimed at Jumbo, another at his buttocks, water pressure so intense it could knock a man down. Johnson would force White House staff to watch him test the shower, naked, screaming in ecstasy as high-pressure water blasted him against the wall. The intense heat from the water, combined with the bright bathroom lights Johnson demanded, caused the fire alarm to go off repeatedly. But Johnson didn't care. He wanted what he wanted, and subordinates had no choice but to comply. Johnson regularly invited male aides to skinny dip in the White House pool. This wasn't recreation. It was a power move. Once everyone was naked, Johnson would compare penis sizes out loud to their faces. He'd make crude jokes about his subordinates' anatomy, mock them, humiliate them. The message was clear. I'm bigger than you, more powerful, more virile. Submit. Cabinet members, senators, military officers, all subjected to Johnson's anatomical humiliation rituals. And they endured it. Because he was the president, because refusing meant career suicide. By 1968, the Vietnam War had become a political disaster. American casualties were mounting. Public opinion had turned against the war. Protests filled the streets. Journalists constantly asked Johnson, "Why are we still in Vietnam?" According to multiple accounts, Johnson finally answered the question. During an off-the-record session with reporters, he asked all women to leave the room. Then, in front of a room full of male journalists, Johnson reached into his pants, pulled out his penis, and declared, "This is why." The reporters were stunned, horrified, but also silenced. Because you can't report what a president says off the record. Think about that. The President of the United States justified a war that killed 58,000 Americans by exposing his genitals. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't metaphor. This was Johnson's actual worldview. Power equals virility. War equals masculinity. And he was the most powerful because he was the most endowed. Lbj treated Secret Service agents, the men sworn to protect his life, with utter contempt. One agent recalled, Johnson was urinating on the side of the road at his Texas ranch. A breeze redirected his stream onto the agent's leg. The agent politely informed Johnson what was happening. Johnson smiled and replied, "I know I am, that's my prerogative," then continued urinating on the man's leg. Think about that. The president deliberately urinated on a Secret Service agent because he could, because it amused him, because asserting dominance, even in the most degrading way, was Johnson's pathology. Modern psychologists examining Johnson's behavior have identified clear narcissistic personality disorder, possibly antisocial personality disorder. Symptoms include grandiose sense of self-importance, need for excessive admiration, sense of entitlement, exploitation of others, lack of empathy, obsession with power and dominance, inability to accept boundaries. Johnson exhibited all of them, constantly, pathologically. His genitalia obsession wasn't about sex, it was about power. Every exposure, every crude joke, every humiliation ritual, all designed to assert dominance, to reduce others to objects, to remind everyone, I control you. Lyndon Johnson accomplished significant things as president. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Medicare, Medicaid. But he was also responsible for escalating Vietnam into a catastrophic quagmire that killed millions. And behind closed doors, he was a monster. A psychologically abusive megalomaniac who weaponized his body to terrorize subordinates. The American people never knew. The press protected him. White House staff stayed silent. Because you didn't cross LBJ. Tell us in the comments, do you think Johnson's behavior was harmless eccentricity or evidence of serious mental illness? Because Lyndon Johnson didn't just inherit JFK's office, he turned the White House into a personal fiefdom of psychological terror. Remember, power doesn't just corrupt. Sometimes it reveals the darkness that was already there. If this investigation made you reconsider Johnson's presidency, hit that like button and share this with anyone who thinks all presidents were dignified statesmen. Subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden truths and untold stories of history. And thank you for watching.